Look at this old man. He is now 88 years and he's been in the jail for kind of years. It's such a long period of time he's been in jail. It's almost 56 years he's been jailed. And he's the world's longest serving prisoner over the death row, where he has killed 4 persons: his boss, his boss's wife, and their 2 children. This is a quadruple murder. But after so many years recently, his trial has been regained, and there he has been acquitted after it was found that the evidence given against him over the murder was fake. Let's go more in detail. He is now 88 years old. He is the world's longest serving death row inmate. He has been acquitted by a Japanese court, and it was after it was found that evidence used against him was fabricated. His name is Iwao Hakamada. He has been on death row for more than half a century. He was found guilty in 1968, that is 56 years ago, of killing his boss, the man's wife, and their 2 teenage children. He was recently granted retrial amid suspicions that investigators may have planted evidence, and it led to his conviction for this quadruple murder. Here is more. Hakamada's case is one of Japan's longest and most famous legal sagas. The case has attracted widespread public interest, and it is with some 500 people who have been lining up for seats in the courtroom in Shizuoka on Thursday. As the verdict was handed down, Hakamada's supporters outside the court, they all cheered "Banzai," a Japanese exclamation that means hooray. Here you have more pictures. Hakamada was in court, not in court, as he had been exempted from all hearings due to his deteriorated mental state. As he's very old and he's been in the jail for 56 years, naturally he's supposed to have deterioration. And because of this deteriorated mental state, he was not presented in the court. With his absence, the court ran. He has been living under the care of his sister since 2014, when he was freed from jail and granted a retrial. A former professional boxer named Hakamada, he was working at a miso processing plant in 1966. There, the bodies of his employer, the man's wife, and 2 children were covered from a fire at their home in Shizuoka, west of Tokyo. They all 4 had been stabbed to death. As he was working that plant, it was supposed that he was responsible for the murder, but later, after 56 years, it's found that the evidence against his trial was fake. Authorities accused Hakamada of murdering the family and setting fire to their home and stealing 200,000 yen in cash. Authorities accused Hakamada initially denied having robbed and murdered the victims, but later he gave what he came to describe as a coerced confession following beatings and interrogations that lasted up to 12 hours a day. Can you imagine? For 12 hours he had been brutally tortured because he did not say that he murdered. Because of this situation, he had to confess. He had to say that he had to admit that he murdered. Actually, he did not. Such a cruel court. You say in 1968 he was convicted of murder and arson, and he was sentenced to death. The decades-long legal saga ultimately turned on some blood-stained clothes found in a tank of miso a year after Hakamada's arrest. Those clothes were used to incriminate him, you see. Those clothes were used to make the law understand that he was responsible for the murder, but actually he wasn't. For years, however, Hakamada's lawyers argued that the DNA recovered from the clothes did not match his, and it raised the possibility that the items belonged to someone else. The lawyers further suggested that police could have fabricated the evidence. Yeah, their argument was not enough. Their argument was enough to persuade Judge Hiroki Murayama, who in 2014 noted that the clothes were not those of the defendant. It is unjust to detain the defendant further as the possibility of his innocence has become clear to a respectable degree. Murayama said at the time Hakamada was then released from jail and granted a retrial. Here you see prolonged legal proceedings meant that it took until last year for that retrial to begin, and until Thursday morning for the court to declare the verdict. While the DNA argument was quashed, the judge found a new argument by defense lawyers' credibility that the red stains found on the clothes could not have been blood, as blood would not remain red on clothing after immersed in miso for a year. Can you imagine? The clothes were immersed in miso and it doesn't keep the red color. The color must have been faded, but it did not fade because it was a fake evidence. The judge found Hakamada innocent and conducted that the key evidence presented by prosecutors was fabricated. Decades of detention, mostly in solitary confinement, with the ever-present threat of execution, have taken a heavy toll on Hakamada's mental health. His 91-year-old sister, Hideka, that is, she is 3 years older than this convict. She has long advocated for his release. Last year, when the retrial commenced, she expressed relief and said, "Finally, weight has been lifted from my shoulders." Retrials for death row inmates are rare in Japan. Hakamada's is only the fifth in Japan's post-war history. Along with the United States, Japan is the only G7 country that still imposes capital punishment, with death row prisoners being notified of their hanging just a few hours in advance. Please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.